I feel like with the roster they have now, they're not pulling in as much audience. They're not getting a big enough audience with their storylines and how fans react to those storylines.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say about 6 years ago, it wasn't so much 7, 8 million. I think it was probably a little closer to 3 million, 3.5 million, which is still substantially bigger than what we're looking at right
Absolutely.
now. You know, when you're talking about 7 million, 8 million, you're more talking about like 2002, 2003, 2004, and coming off that heyday of the Attitude Era into the Ruthless Aggression Era. But as far as fresh faces, I'll get it out. I've got Invisalign in, but it screws with me a little bit. But as far as the fresh faces go, for me, it's not so much fresh faces as it is consistent protective booking. You need to find a way to protect those talent and book those talent in a way where their positives are enhanced and their weaknesses are hidden. Take a look at, I'm going to give you 2 examples here. Drew McIntyre. Drew McIntyre had protected booking where he was booked as a superstar and as a top guy who didn't lose. And when he did lose, it was because the odds were stacked against him. And he elevated himself up the card. You then, on the flip side of that, look at what happened with the Hurt Business, where Cedric Alexander and Shelton Benjamin, their positives were being accentuated and their weaknesses hidden by what MVP and Bobby Lashley were bringing to the table for them. And then you pull them back for seemingly no reason. And therefore, that talent that was starting to get over, even though Shelton Benjamin is 39 years old and has been exposed forever, those talent were starting to get over in this role. Now, all of a sudden, you're reeling back.
Yeah, you're decreasing their momentum pretty much.
Right. It's start-stop booking, and that is the problem, in my opinion, that WWE's main roster has had. Not so much the talent, because I think right now, in-ring talent-wise, it's some of the most talented individuals they've ever had.
Yeah.
I want to know, what is it that got you into this, professional wrestling itself? What is it that drew you to it? I mean, we all have stories about what got us interested in it. My mother takes full responsibility as to why I am the way I am today with wrestling, and my wife blames her for it. But what got you into wanting to, lock into wrestling? What is it like a wrestler that got you excited to watch every single night, whether it be Saturday night when I did Saturday night's main event or whatever it is?
October 5th, 1997, I saw this guy rip a door off a Hell in a Cell. His name was Kane, and I was hooked ever since then. Just happened to be watching at a neighbor's house. I was a young kid. I was 5 years old, something like that. And I was so enamored with it. And I thought it was the coolest thing ever. And I was hooked. And then The Rock just grabbed me. And from that point on, I had a brief period around 03, 04 where I kind of dabbled out. But then once Eddie passed, I was really back in and haven't looked back since. And then working the independent scene has just made my love grow even more and the appreciation that I have for pro wrestling.
That brings me to, I'll let God go in a second, but now you got me excited because I really want to ask this question because this has been brought up so many times. This wasn't even a question I was even going to ask you, but now you brought up Kane's name. Do you find the Undertaker-Kane storyline, in your opinion, the greatest storyline ever told in wrestling history?
I don't know if it's the greatest storyline ever told, but it's certainly one of the most compelling, right? You couldn't look away as it unfolded, and there was genuine mystery to it. I think for me, where they fall flat is their matches weren't that good together. Like they just I love them. They are 2 of my all-time favorites, but their matches just weren't that good. They didn't have great chemistry together. Their first match was their best match.
The WrestleMania match, yeah.
Yeah, the first WrestleMania match they had, yeah. And I don't know. I mean, I love them as a tag team. I love the whole arc. I mean, you can follow that whole arc over a span of 15 years, and it's super entertaining and great, but it's certainly one of the most compelling.
The WWE fans and the AEW fans, what do you think is the worst of the worst?
I think the worst fans are the fans that tribalize everything like what you just said. There's no reason to hate on other people for enjoying a certain product. You can be critical of a product and not like a product, or you can be critical of other fans for making excuses for a product. I think that is a fair assessment to make, but there's no reason to have all this tribalism. If you don't like something, don't watch it. Yep. If you do like something, watch it. That's great.